we're in the theater freaking out. I'm like, yo, I'm like, bro, you're in the Iron Man movie? We're in the theater freaking out.
We were surprised.
Yeah.
We were.
Yeah. So,
Many of us that knew it.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So just to qualify.
Yeah. Today, we were bringing you a special Father's Day episode of Loves Music. I invited my dad on to talk about his days in the band Breakwater. In the late 70s, Breakwater was one of the hottest bands in Philadelphia from 78 to about 81. They had took a 30-year hiatus and came back better than ever, still touring and still filling Philadelphia venues, World Cafe, Warm Daddies, and actually doing shows all the way out in London. My dad and the band Breakwater show you that it's never too late for a second act. And I think you're going to be inspired by this one. Come on. Man, I'm fired up to have this episode, man. I wasn't sure when we were going to be able to connect, and it seems appropriate to be doing it on the week of Father's Day. So thank you for making some time for me.
It is an honor to do this, I got to tell you. Yeah. And I believe it or not, I am as fired up as you are to do this. So yes, I am.
All right,
cool. I was looking forward to it when you first mentioned it, and man, here we are.
Yeah, right. So, all right, so this first question is going to be a easy one. It's a two-parter, right?
Okay.
So in the early 80s, you had both of your sons. Which one do you love more, and why is it me?
I really did not see that coming.
No, I'm playing with you. So as most people already know from the intro, I mean, we know you're a great drummer, an amazing musician. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, I figured it would be a good place to start. I was as is documented in a couple different places. You're growing up born in the 50s, growing up in the 60s. And it's said that a lot of like urban families, blue collar families would buy their kids musicians to keep them out of trouble. Mm-hmm. Is that a similar situation in Philadelphia? Because it would make sense because there were so many musicians coming out of that area where you're from in Germantown.
That was absolutely the case. And believe it or not, as you posed the question, I did not consider it that way, but that was put very well. And it pretty much puts into focus what we went through as young kids. I can tell it to you like this: probably every 5 blocks there was a band, people like doing that kind of thing. Everybody playing musical instruments, maybe heightened by access to TV, coming up, looking at it on TV, and that being a somewhat of a catalyst to get us excited about potentially playing that music that we were hearing. Radio was huge, to get us there as well. So yeah, I believe that really does capsulize a good way to look at what was going on at that time. Okay. Yeah.
So can you take me to your earliest exposure of music? Like the earliest first songs that you heard and you knew that it was something special?
Oh man, there's a mix of ideas that come in my head. I spent a lot of time in my basement. My father did like most fathers in the area did, and you finished the basement and that was your entertainment room. And so I spent a lot of time down there playing records. I would primarily play my sister's records. She's 5 years older than me and buying music. And I am not, because I don't have a job yet. I'd listen to her and it attracted me. So I would sneak down and play her records. And they would be, a lot of singing groups is what she was into. But my mom kind of caught that I was listening to certain music, and she would get me certain albums. So I would listen to those as well. But I'm going to tell you, so between listening to my sister's records and going to shows and seeing groups perform, she was allowed to go to a place called the Uptown Theater. And I was really blown away that she was going to allow me to attend one of those concerts with her. And so I'd go to those shows and I was just blown away at what I was seeing. There would be groups, I don't know if you're going to even know these groups, son, the Intruders. Well, you're going to know the Temptations, of course.
Sure.
The Ambassadors. These were singing groups primarily, but the band that would be performing at the show to back up the singers is what really got to me. I would watch the drummers. I would watch how he played. he was a supporting player, and that blew my mind. And I was seeing how he'd make everything happen for those singers, and how he was playing, how the rest of the band was playing as well. But I think I was so influenced by that, in terms of wanting to play drums. That was my first inspiration towards playing, going to the Uptown Theater and seeing the drummers back up the singers and the acts that came on. That was a very popular place, as popular in Philadelphia as the Apollo was in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, like that.
Okay. So, and about how old are you when this is taking place?
I'm going to tell you about like 8, 9 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a scene that's like nurturing music in the area. What's the upbringing like? It's weird because when I think of Philly, I think of it as parts of it being tough, but also when I think of Germantown, I think of like big 3-story homes. Like, what was your area like for the people that aren't really familiar with like how Germantown?
I got you.
Philadelphia.
There were row homes, twins, and then when you got to the outskirts, you would have bigger homes. Were bigger single homes, bigger. Goodness gracious, not 8, but say 12-foot ceilings.
Okay.
Homes with larger rooms. I mean, 3-story homes, that kind of thing. And towards the outskirts of the area, of the town.
All right. So I would think younger families, a lot of kids,
Yes.
a lot of parents still together in the houses.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. It was like that.
Yeah.
Just about everywhere you would look, which is kind of different now.
All right, so you have both parents, and from what I remember, they kind of nurtured your music gifting, right? Your parents are
They
pretty
did.
supportive.
They did. I'm going to say that. My mom and dad, I think they started listening to what I was cooking up in the basement. As I said, I was down there and I was trying to figure some stuff out, man. I was singing along to the records. I was figuring out that I could sing a little bit, and I would kind of nurture what I thought I'd sing. I'd sing to the records I thought sounded closest to what I was capable of doing. I also would try to, mimic drumming.
Okay.
I wanted to play drums so bad after those times of visiting the Uptown Theater with my sister, and I would build a drum set in the basement. And I'm talking, the bass drum would be kind of smacking the couch that was in the basement. I had a box that sounded like a snare that I actually made in wood shop, and I did not make that in wood shop. I actually made it down in the basement alongside of my dad. But it sounded like a snare. And then there was an ashtray, so cymbal. And my mom and dad overheard me messing with that stuff. And I was keeping time to records and things like that. And I would spend a lot of time doing it to the point that they felt, I believe, convicted that we've got to do something about it. We've got to try to get him into a program or get him a drum set. And I will tell you this, I did try to play drums. I tried it at the school. I tried it at Bugle Corps. And the drums were escaping me.
Really? So
they just
you didn't have like natural. There was some natural talent, right? You can't.
There was, but I guess what I'm saying, I did not have the ability to take a spot because they were always occupied.
All right.
Everybody wanted to play drums.
But you were like
So
naturally good, right?
Yeah.
You could like just sit down and play, kind of.
I had natural abilities. I did.
Yeah.
But I hadn't. But at that point, before they got me the kit, I hadn't played kit before. You know what I mean?
Oh, all right.
So I was going to school. Hey, I would like to play drums, and the way that they did drumming was you would learn snare because you're going to be playing in the orchestra, snare, one cymbal, or a bass drum. That was your drum responsibility.
Yeah, that's no fun. no girls are trying to talk to the guy that plays the big bass drum.
Well, so, and you know what? That was the mindset did go along with what you're saying. So everybody wanted to play the snare drum,
right?
Because the snare drum was the coolest one.
Gotcha.
That was the one. That was the lady magnet, if you will.
That's funny. So all right. So obviously, at some point, you got your kit. You're playing. Can you take me through the early introductions to the guys in the band?
Okay, so I'm playing, and really, I was in a lot of. I never even told you guys about this, but I was in a lot of little first bands. once again, doing like backing up. One of the bands I was playing in was a backup to some singers that were in the neighborhood. So they wanted to form a band. So I said, sure, I'll do that. And then there was another season where I played with, there was a teacher at school that overheard us playing music in the church basement where your grandmother went to church.
Okay.
And where I went to church as well. And that was actually where I met Peter Lloyd, who would later be the bass player, the first bass player in the Breakwater band. And he and I would jam all the time. We would just be playing, and we were in the church playing. And this gentleman who was a teacher at Germantown High came walking by. Turned out he was a keyboard player, a piano player, and knew a whole bunch of jazz standards. And we started playing with him.
Okay.
And we did a couple gigs too.
So you were playing jazz. That was like the beginning of like you started on the highest difficulty level.
And I was like, I was self-taught. I would play what I heard. I would play what I had been listening to in records. I was playing my father's records too. And so he had the jazz records and I was playing his records. And I would just kind of like feel my way to the way the piano player was playing. They were standards. They were jazz standards. So they were kind of like, if you will, the pop songs, the jazz pop songs of that day when those were written. You know,
Give me an example.
Girl from Ipanema.
Okay.
By the time I get to Phoenix.
All right.
Those are jazz standards and more. You know, Sunny. And these are songs that later folks would put them in a pop form, and like a Jose Feliciano, blind guitar player, actually made a big hit out of Sunny. Yeah.
All right, cool. So you're playing jazz. You connected with Peter. And was that your bridge to Breakwater?
It was. Yeah. Because Pete was friends with, so there was another bro that was that lived down the street from me, Daniel Connors. Daniel Connors played saxophone. And really I would say more so, and I guess I think I had that wrong saying that Peter was the bridge, but I know a lot of those guys knew Peter. But really Daniel was the bridge because Daniel was in the band called, I think it was Chain Reaction. Chain Reaction was a band that Phil Lightfoot, who's married to Kathy Sledge,
Yep.
he was the drummer in the band. Daniel, my friend that lived down the street from me, because he was the saxophone player that played with me and Peter and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But he went on and joined that band. I'm doing all kinds of other stuff,
right?
And not really in a band that I feel like is going to go somewhere just yet.
I mean, there's a lot of Philly people too that are coming up, I guess, around that time as well.
Oh yeah.
Could you talk about some of your connections that people actually might be able to recognize? Like I know the Eubanks are from the area. Frankie Bentley's from the area.
Oh yeah. Frankie came before us, and Frankie was like kind of like a big brother. We would go see him perform and have our minds blown. He was playing at places that we were playing at. He did come in and listen to us one night, and we were blown away by that because we played in the same place.
Right.
And then, but never got to really know him real well or anything like that. So you had bands like that. There was a really popular cover band that was well known in Philadelphia called the Soul Devaliants. They were just really phenomenal to see. And then the Natural Soul Brothers was another one. You know, all these bands changed their names too. Funny thing. To like we became Breakwater, somebody else became Forces of Nature. The Soul Devaliants became Forces of Nature. Everybody was thinking Elements because of Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's the weirdest thing. Everybody was plugging in on it, you know.
So what was like the competitive nature, right? Like I feel like every scene is different. Like when like the Seattle grunge scene was getting big, like all those guys would like do songs together, like Soundgarden and Pearl Jam would all like jam together. The scene in like the UK, like Amy Winehouse would play gigs with all those guys like Blur, Coldplay. They would all like be like the same and stuff. What was the Philly scene like? Like a lot of camaraderie, or was it more like competition?
It was both, man. It was both. I'll try to move through. I think I'm going down rabbit holes. I'll start talking about something. But what I'll tell you is Competitions for sure. You get in the you want it to be better than the other band.
Right.
I mean, it's just how it was. There were so many of us, not to the point. I mean, we weren't gangs against each other or anything like that. But we surely were trying to outdo the other band. That's true. And we looked up to the bands I named to you. We looked up to the Natural Soul Brothers. We learned so much from those guys. But when it comes down to the camaraderie part, I think amongst drummers, we would get together and we would clinic ourselves, man. We would go over somebody's place and take turns sitting on the kit and, just showing some stuff. This is what I'm working on. And that was some of the best stuff. Billy Johnson was my bud, man. He was he played with Frankie Beverly. He played with Santana. He went on to do some really nice things. He is a really great drummer. And then there's Pete Rudd, played with Patti LaBelle, ended up being the music director for that band, for her. And there's some other ones too. But these are just a really great company of drummers, man, that I was friends with in Philly. And the list goes on too. But those were some of the main guys that I would end up, chopping it up with.
So could you, for the folks that are listening, could you describe Breakwater's sound? Whenever somebody tells me what kind of band your dad was in, I'm like, funk R&B, think Earth, Wind, and Fire. But as somebody who's a little bit of a music nerd, I don't even think you guys sound anything like Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like, it's a good reference point when you're like explaining it to somebody else. But to somebody like me who like nerds out a little bit, I'm like, man, they don't even sound like Earth, Wind, and Fire, man.
Yeah, we definitely developed our own style, but we were nuts about Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Sure.
And I would say, we always go to the Earth, Wind, and Fire identification because you've got jazz, you've got rock, and you've got soul,
Right.
funk.
Right.
Kind of take all those things, and at some point that night, you're going to hear somewhat of those sounds. You're going to feel like you caught some rock there tonight, or you
Right.
caught some soul. Somebody singing some love songs, kind of thing. Good harmonies.
Yeah.
You want to hear some jazz, some good soloing, so a feature of a musician that will be impressive because he knows his instrument, kind of thing. And then, there's so much fusing together of those elements as well. So I think the Breakwater sound is kind of, gosh, I wish I could put a flashy description on it, but it's funk, soul, but it's also, we were really trying to be message driven as well, positive, those kinds of things, so it had that element as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a dance element to it. You know what I mean? Like half of every album you could play in any like wedding or roller skating rink, and it'll slap.
Sure. It was about coming up with dance tunes, man. I mean, bands love to make people dance, and bands loved to play funk music.
Yeah.
It's just exciting, and it's a form of medication, man. to lay something that to lay grooves down is just, man.
Right.
It's a prescription for healing, man.
Yeah, man.
It's got that element to it.
Right. So the iteration of the band that most people know them by, right? About when did you guys all kind of connect? Senior year in high school, a little bit later?
That's really good. And you're right around that time this started to happen. I mean, I remember being in the 11th grade when we did like our first concert. Yeah.
Okay.
I was in the 11th grade. We did it at school. The school was presenting, and there was another band there that we would be friends with that band. When we were at that school together, that was a competition, and we were trying to outdo each other. And then later on, we were friends. We were good friends.
Oh, that's cool.
Even to this day.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what was the original reception like when you guys like first came out with your first couple tunes and performed?
With originals, or?
Here's how to rephrase the question. How long did it take for people to like warm up to you?
Within the first year, the band just was kind of different from the other bands that were forming in the neighborhood.
Okay.
We weren't the same. Everybody would try to, and I'm answering your question in a roundabout way, but everyone would make sure they knew the popular songs. And for some reason, we would go, okay, everybody's going to be learning this song on the album. Let's do this one.
Right.
we didn't want to do the one that everybody else was doing because we wanted to set ourselves apart. And for the same reason, we would go to resources that people wouldn't think of. I mean, a group of it was a 9-piece band, so a group of black guys, maybe with one or two white guys in the band,
Right.
playing "Help Me" by Joni Mitchell.
Okay.
Like really different stuff. And there's um, Brian Auger is a name that some musicians might know, some people might know, but probably most people don't. We were doing his stuff, and he was really popular as as an organist and vocalist. And we were playing his stuff to the max because we could play it in a way to make it dance music.
Got it.
But he was awesome songwriter, awesome musician. We would just pull out. We were playing "Mean Mistreater" by Grand Funk Railroad as a slow tune.
Okay.
We would just do some offbeat things, man. But people did enjoy it. They started noticing us that way, Santana tunes. The other ones that people weren't playing, Samba Party, which is it's a slow tune. You probably know that
Yeah,
tune,
yeah.
man.
I wouldn't think to like cover that as like a band, but I mean,
Yep,
yeah.
we would do it. That's the kind of stuff. It was a great feature for a guitar player.
Got you.
And people in the crowd, they knew Santana and they knew the whole album. So when we would play something like that, it would catch.
Yeah, you would have totally won me over. If I was big into a band and you played like a deep cut, I'd have been like, I'm like, you're my guys.
Yep.
Now you're my guys.
That was the idea. It just really, I mean, we did some of the popular things,
Yeah.
we did some of them, but that was the MO of the band, that we would function that way a lot of the time. And just always, and then we were pretty tight. I think we had the ability to be a tight band, and the other bands weren't staying together. They were breaking up for one reason or another. And we liked each other,
Yeah,
man.
y'all
We enjoyed each other, man.
Yeah, I mean,
The same thing works in sports. It works like that on teams in sports.
Yeah.
In sports, And I think that's what gave us longevity. I think people saw that and they liked that in the band, So all those things I think made a difference to set us apart. And so I would say the first year, people really started like enjoying the band, like the way we did what we did.
You are doing offbeat, maybe just some covers, but there is something about your music that's still pretty accessible. Like there's nothing really avant-garde. It's nothing hard to understand. Like what's happening right here? Like some performance art thing. I mean, it's still just good, listenable music. Like at its core, it's qualitative, well executed, just really, really good music.
The guys were really good about learning their instruments too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We had a collective. We had depth in terms of how people felt about putting their craft, across. They really, there was no messing around, man.
Yeah.
There was a deep dive into, I guess, the study of whatever instrument people were playing, and that made that really sparked the band. The intricacies of the band.
Gotcha.
And how we approach things. And we ended up forming a band inside the band.
Yeah.
And then that band would go out though to Reading and play a gig and as a jazz fusion band, like me, Greg, Steve, and the other guys would come out and just support it.
Yeah.
That weren't necessarily going to be playing in it. And we did that for a while, man. And it was crazy music. It was like rip your face off fusion.
Yeah. So talk to me, how long did it take you to start gaining traction or like national recognition? Like labels start paying attention to you guys?
I tell you, when we first came out, I felt as though, it was somewhat of a fresh sound. It was different. The one thing that was a little tough was when we came out, when the first album hit, it was at the same time that disco was coming up and was really big. And I guess the presence of disco was always coming at us from the record company. And it was also affecting, I guess the playing of our material as well. It's almost like we ran into an issue where it appeared that the record company was unsure of how to promote the band because perhaps this was part of it, because of disco being so big, and we didn't necessarily have disco songs. We had dance songs, we
Right.
had funky songs,
They're not
but we didn't necessarily have a disco song. They actually gave us they wanted us to put a disco song on the album. And as I say that to you, I hear that song in my head. And it was not the band, man. we we were able to escape using that song. And who knows, maybe it would have been a hit. Who knows?
This song that's on a current album or one of the
It's not.
albums? Oh,
It's
right.
not.
You guys booted it?
That first album, that first album was going to have probably about 3 or 4 songs but we did not write.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's 2 of them on there that we did not write.
Yeah.
2 songs on that first album.
Okay.
That's Not What We Came Here For.
I like that, John, actually.
And No Limit.
No Limits, you guys didn't write?
We did not write that. The same person that wrote McFadden and Whitehead.
Okay.
Yeah. The writer of Ain't No Stopping Us Now.
Oh, all right.
That's who wrote No Limit.
Man, I mean, they're both solid. So, I mean, I can see why I would put them on the album. I mean, they're good. They're good songs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And that was a move by the record company.
Okay.
And then the disco song that we did not use was called "Get Down to Your Dancing."
Okay.
And it just didn't go with the rest of the album, man. But we recorded it,
bro.
Yeah, we recorded it and everything, man.
So take me through the signing process. This is probably 70, I would think 77 or 78. That's when the first album came out.
78, right before 78.
Okay.
All right, I'll try to move through this. So
it was I know it was between Arista and Quincy, right?
That's true.
Okay.
Yep. So it's A&M would have been with Quincy, and then we ended up going with Arista after having a conversation like we were going to go with Quincy.
Right.
But however, the realities just changed, and like there was so much that was troubling in terms of what we were going to lose a lot of what we had built ourselves to in the name of making it and becoming something that would be successful, all that. At least we thought that. Whether or not that would have happened, it was,
right.
Who knows?
In was Quincy like the guy yet? Like I feel like
he was the guy.
I feel
Quincy
like was like the kind of put him like on, but I'm not familiar with as much of his work before Thriller.
So he was working with the Brothers Johnson.
Strawberry.
He was working with them. Yeah. So that was part. So Get the Funk Out My Face.
Okay.
And that was like, I mean, funk was just a big deal at that time, you know. So he had done that, and he had done some work prior to doing that album with them, because that's how they did a song on Quincy had them on his album, and then he ended up signing them and worked with them for their stuff and worked on their album as well.
So you went with Arista. They backed the projects. Talk to me about your touring life. What were some of the cool shows that you did? Some cool people you got to perform with?
You know, we got a chance to do some things here and there, but we did not have much of a tour.
Okay.
And this is the problem. If you don't come up with a hit, if you're not promoted well,
right,
and have a hit record that's out there, and that was part of the band's problem, you know. Not so much what we did, but people being confused about how to market us, that kind of thing. But we got a chance to do some gigs here and there with top-notch bands, and we opened up for Gino Vanelli. He did the song "I Just Want to Stop."
Yeah, familiar.
And we did that at the Spectrum, so that was a big deal. The first show that we did with him was at the Spectrum, and then we did a second show with him in Pittsburgh at their Spectrum, if you will, you know. And we did a lot better at the second show. Not so great the first show.
What was wrong?
I will tell you, Gino Vanelli is a perfectionist, you know, and maybe with a touch of arrogance to go along with it. But he stayed out on the stage, continuing to work on his show until the doors opened. So only thing we could do, and people were coming in, and the show was going to start real soon. He left the stage. They opened the doors. We started setting our equipment up, but we had to set it up in front of his setup.
Right.
So we were out of the line of lighting. It just happened like that. In other words, there was no plan to do anything different with us as the opening band, because there was no time to make adjustments to make us fit in a space that would allow us to have light. We had no show lights. We had
So y'all just like playing.
we set up outside of the lights.
Okay.
And so they had the spot. They were using the spot to try to feature the
Oh,
band.
man.
And I don't know, man. It was kind of sad.
Do you have a favorite gig?
A favorite.
Like it was like a night that you can point to where you're like, we
Yeah, man.
cashed it. Well,
We
yeah,
opened up for Earth, Wind, and Fire, man.
yeah,
This was before they really hit. It was the gig probably right after the female vocalist was no longer in the band.
okay.
They had a female vocalist.
Okay.
They moved on without her, because she was having some problems. And man, when we saw them that night, we opened up for them. It was like a cabaret kind of a thing. They were just long before they had these two songs that they would link together. And after we heard those songs, we put those songs in our lineup.
Yeah.
And we played them every time.
Did you?
Time Is on Your Side and Remember the Children. And they are, if you listen to those songs today, because you probably haven't been exposed to them that much, because it was newer songs that become, like September,
Yeah.
that became so popular. But those are cool songs, man. They really are. So yeah, that was a cool gig because we got so inspired by them.
Okay.
On that gig.
Yeah, I mean, they seem like cool guys too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was really a I would say a turning point for the band.
So take me to your exit. You guys album in 78, album in 80, baby in 81.
That's good. You're going to bring that up, huh?
I mean, I don't like to think I broke up Breakwater, but
yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah,
no.
Yeah, you did that.
Yeah, I ruined
you did, man. It was like this. So basically, I'm soul searching a little bit. I'm knowing I need to make some bread. We're not making much bread. And I have to ask the question, what's the best thing for me to do right now? Because I just married the woman of my dreams. I married her. And I got this young kid that just was born. And I'm a new dad. And I'm flying. I'm flying. I want to take care of my family.
Yeah.
And so I got to a point that I started trying to understand what if I look out beyond where I was at. And when I looked out beyond, I didn't see the ability to do both. I felt like I really needed to be present. And I will tell you that when I made that decision to leave the band at that time, I've never looked back and felt like I made the wrong decision. I felt like I was present in the life of my family the way I needed to be. I look back, I look at what we've come through. I look at what your mom and I had to walk through, at different times. That was really tough to do. And let me just imagine myself not being there for her. That just wouldn't have worked. So I felt like I was where I needed to be. I felt like my children knew that their dad was around.
Sure.
And that was just important to me at that time. And then you dial it forward, and all of a sudden I get another opportunity. The band starts talking about getting back together again, man. And it's been really great for what we can do. At this time.
What inspired that the reuniting of the band? It feels like to me today.
Yeah,
it feels like you've just always been playing music with those guys, and I forget it was about maybe a 15-year hiatus, maybe a little bit longer, 20-year hiatus.
30.
It was 30 years. I thought you guys played again in my 20s. Yeah,
30 years, bro.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was almost 30. Yeah.
It was. It came up. Just we would always periodically get together and touch base and talk music. What's everybody doing? A couple of the guys were still active in music, and we would talk about that. They brought it up, and somebody brought it up strong. I can't even remember exactly who it was. What do you guys think about getting back together? And I know my kids are older now, so that really was my primary catalyst for coming out of it. And I felt like something I thought I had a piece about. Yeah, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. I think it's time. I came to that place.
Any apprehension about being able to like fill the venues again or anything? Because I remember those early shows and they were packed, like sold out, packed.
They were people wanted to or were really excited. I mean, that's why if you probably hear the mantra of, we are doing what we're doing because of you,
Right.
because of you guys out there that come out to see these shows. It's a huge part of our reason for coming back into play as a result of fans approaching us. Response when we had those early shows from people coming out. A whole lot of people have, passed on since that time. That used to be huge supporters of the band. So, man, we came back and were able to touch base with them before they did, move forward. And that's really special.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot to be thankful for the fans of the band.
One of my favorite experiences with you is when you guys actually got to do a show in London without having like a major international tour. How do you pack a bunch of white British people in a ballroom across the ocean with no major tour? Most of them probably have never even seen you in person.
That's a good question.
How does that happen?
We did it. So we had one show that we did that we were the main ones at the show. So somebody was working on it there that really had a heart for the band. But the thing to understand is what unknown to us, people were listening to the music over there and had a heart for the music.
You guys had radio hits, even without touring. I mean, maybe not a hit, but like you guys had songs on the radio.
There were songs that they liked, and they favored a different set of songs in England that would be different from the ones that they favored here in the States. It was the oddest thing. They favored songs like Work It Out.
Yeah.
And
they loved y'all over there. Like I remember seeing people come up for autographs and stuff, like geeking out over you. I'm like,
it was really dynamite.
They're like, can we get a picture with James? I'm like, James. I'm like,
that's what's on the album. That's funny. I'm not sure why.
They like knew like all your names and stuff. Like they were like legit fans there.
Yeah, that was a real special time. Actually, when you were asking me which gig that we did was the most memorable, that's got a lot on it. But we so those were two different populations too. One was like a throwback convention that we played the second night.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then the first one was just we're playing at a venue in the downtown area, London, and and then at the last minute it had to be moved from the bowl. I forget the name of the place.
Right. For anybody who's listening that's familiar with London, they played the first show was in Shoreditch, which is almost like the Northern Liberties of like London, kind of.
Okay.
And then
thank you.
And then Blackpool. I believe Blackpool was like 2-3 hours away, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
It took some time to get there.
Yep.
We drove a good portion of the day, man.
Yeah.
But it was really beautiful country, a beautiful town that we were in, but it was that was the one that was the convention, a throwback. Like people were. There was a room with all kinds of hippie clothes that they were selling. Older recordings of music, from back when. It was kind of a cool event. It really was. And we were the entertainment for Saturday night.
Speaking of modern stories, I can't let you go without telling the Avengers story, right? And
my goodness!
So I just realized, right? So. Let me build a scene for everybody out there.
Okay, you got it.
This is probably 2010. The second Iron Man movie is in theaters. I think the first one was 2008, second one was 2010. Don't quote me on an exact date, but it's like 2000.
Okay, yeah,
2010. And what's crazy? You know what I realized too? Me and my brother are like grown men in the theater with y'all. Like, did we have girls with us, or was it just the four of us in a theater together? Like, as a family, we just went to the movies. Like I was like 30 years old. Like
there was a whole bunch of other people there too.
Oh yeah. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. I'm like, what was I doing in the theater with my parents as a grown man?
It was such a charge for us to, get together and and see these movies that were kind of new at that
They
time.
were too. Like the Marvel stuff was like a big deal. Like,
Yeah, it was a big deal.
We're nerds, so we were going to all those Jones.
When they were first come out.
Right.
The idea was to see it when it first hit.
Right.
And that was Thursday night.
Right. Yeah, it was Thursday. All right. So all right, that makes sense. Yeah. So we'd get off. My brother would come out and then we go see it. We meet you guys. That makes more sense. So anyway.
We bought a whole, like, I'm talking about 12 people from church, man. Wanted to come down and just hang and see this.
Oh, wow.
We hit that same night.
Huh. Okay.
There was a whole bunch of folks there, Joel.
Oh, so I didn't even remember that. I didn't know there was a bunch of people there. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So Iron Man 2's on. We're all in the theater just enjoying this movie. And there's the scene where Tony gets drunk and then Rhodey has to kind of straighten him out a little bit. And so
that's right.
And so there's a DJ in the party, right? Like they're in their Iron Man suits, but he has his mask up. So Tony's like talking and he's talking to Don Cheadle, you know?
Yep.
And so there's a DJ playing. So as they're fighting now, the DJ's record keeps getting hit around. So the songs keep changing. And they play It Takes Two to Make a Thing Go Right. The record scratches and a Breakwater song comes on. And we're in the theater freaking out. I'm like, yo. I'm like, bro, you're in the Iron Man movie? We're in the theater freaking out.
We were surprised.
Yeah.
We were.
Yeah.
So many of us that knew it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So just to qualify, Daft Punk had actually approached Breakwater's the leader of the band who primarily wrote the music for that. And we got together and all collectively helped with the lyrical idea of it. But Daft Punk is known for taking tunes, purchasing the rights for a season to build something on their own that they want to do. And so basically that was in the works with the person that made the music that was in Breakwater. But we didn't know that it had reached to a point that it ended up being in a movie. We knew Daft Punk had did something with the song. We did understand that. So our music is in it. We're playing the music, but it's reconfigured with the vocal, missing the vocals and some other stuff that reminds you of robots. So the name of the tune that's done by Daft Punk is Robot Rock.
Got it.
And that is the song that was in the movie. But the credits at the end, and we were blown away by this. Say Breakwater right at the end.
Yep.
Performed by Breakwater.
Yeah.
And it was an incredible thing. And we had to work out all the logistics later.
Okay.
In terms of, since our name is up there, shouldn't we be getting...
I was like, is this to send that check to the...
Yep. We had to work that thing out, and we did.
Yeah.
We worked it out.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and then it popped up in commercials and stuff too, right?
It has done that. Yep, it has done that.
Oh.
There's some other TV shows have used it.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's one of those tunes that just keeps on. People hear it. It's got a very distinct sound in terms of the keyboard player worked hard on the sounds of the Moogs. There's a Moog bass. There's a Moog that does the lead line in the song. And that's what is really, it's so catchy when you hear it. It's not, nobody has sounds like that.
Right.
Back then, nobody had a sound like that, I got to tell you. And he was like a scientist working on that thing, I got to tell you. He's just so gifted in searching out what he was hearing in his imagination and then bringing it to fruition.
Right.
Incredible.
If anybody's interested in hearing the Breakwater version, the song is actually called Release the Beast. It's the second or third song off Splashdown Time. That's their second album. They're on like a white, almost looks like they're in like a subway or something. They're all wearing like spacesuits. Certainly the album's awesome front to back, but Release the Beast is the song that we're referring to.
Yes, it is.
Robot Rock.
That's got good. That album has very good songs on it.
Yeah,
it really does.
Incredible. Maybe I'm biased. I don't think there's a better album that came out of the 70s than Splashdown. The first Breakwater album's really good. I think Splashdown Time is like special. Like it feels like a best of album. I mean, like every song to me is like
it does.
Like you don't skip anything.
It's packed.
Yeah.
It's packed with good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys ate on that one, as the kids would say. So I got a question for you. Is there any artists or musicians that impressed you today? Like artists that came out in the last 10, 15 years?
Absolutely. The funniest thing is I was so, I guess, focused on musicians other than singers through my time of being in Breakwater earlier on, and just wasn't thinking about vocalists as much. And today I am so put in another place and so inspired by many vocalists. I will tell you that. And they're from all over the place.
Yeah.
They're female vocalists sometimes. But I'll name a couple: Alan Stone, um, Teddy Swims.
Incredible.
I'm hearing Luther for the first time,
Yeah.
in ways that I didn't hear him before. I had a sister that was madly in love with Luther, in terms of just how he did what he did, and I didn't get it back then,
Right.
but I get it now. There's some other ones that I could be forgetting.
Sure.
I'm inspired. I'm still inspired by musicians, like other instrumental work that is done, saxophone players in particular. So I go with Gerald Albright. Really, really does it for me.
Okay.
And then other bands that have horn sections that they're known for. So I continue to be wowed with like a Tower of Power horn section, and as well as a Chicago horn section.
Of course.
Yeah. That's just some special stuff to it. Yeah, but some of these singers that are coming up, I'm blown away.
Here's a question for you. Not really off topic, but I don't know of anybody else, and I'm not just saying this because you're my dad, that's more just universally beloved. What is the best compliment that someone's ever paid you? And that's this question I actually got. I have to give credit. Good friend of mine, Gail, who I connected with online, actually gave me the idea for this question. So you're actually the first guest I ever asked this question to.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I've heard some things, I gotta say, that I'm blown away that somebody would even think of me that way. I had somebody tell me, they know me as James at my job.
Okay.
And I was thanking folks for celebrating my 70th birthday at my job. And I think I was trying to encourage them, in terms of how much I appreciated them. And one of the responses came from my owner's wife, and she said, "James, you're the best man I know."
Oh,
and that just blew me away.
Yeah.
I know that was a little over the top, and I know that.
you're being a little hyperbolic.
That blew me away.
Take it.
But other than that, I'm constantly, folks have led me to believe that they have felt encouraged by my words.
Okay.
And I think that that's an incredible compliment to be paid, for somebody to say to you. And at the same time, what a responsibility if you really are able to do something like that and you want it to really count for something. It's not always in the words you speak, though, but it's about, how you carry yourself for them, in different times, it could be as simple as respecting them, as people, so I certainly, ask for strength to live that out and continue to be like that. If that's what seems to be coming back to me in terms of my existence here on this earth. So I want to keep that up.
Absolutely.
Great question, man.
Yeah, man. So if you were another two-parter, a serious one.
Okay.
If a musician was just starting out, we're talking late teens, maybe early 20s, probably like late teens.
Yes.
What advice would you give them either about the actual craft of music or just like innate advice? Just as an older guy that's just been through everything.
Of course, right away, I speak from some of the things that I may have missed doing that I felt like would have taken me further. Gosh, definitely educate yourself in your instrument in terms of being able to properly communicate, through learn how to read, learn how to write. Take the time to do that. That's going to serve you well if you want to take what you do musically as far as you want to take it. And there's a lot of people that have been able to be successful without doing that part. I just think you owe it to what you're trying to do to have as many tools as you can have to really push your communication completely through and deliver on what your imagination is feeding you in terms of what you do with that music. So you're going to go further, and it's a communication thing. It's a being able to communicate to other people what you're trying to birth musically.
Right.
Is going to go a longer way if you're educated musically to be able to communicate it. So,
Okay. All right. So the second part, what would you tell somebody who's already established, maybe has a career, maybe has kids, home, mortgage, life's responsibilities, but they still feel an innate desire to continue to create?
yeah, it's so important, man. Oh, this is a tough one because I understand that we want to do music, and at the same time, we've got to bread and butter, man. You got to put food on the table and do those things as well. I've seen so many different ways that people have done it. So I would tell you it is just as important. Don't forget, it's just as important to make sure you can take care of yourself, that you can have life, that you can do what you need to do to survive, and you may have to figure a way to do both, even though you want to do that as bad as you want to do it. Those years when we're younger and we're perhaps still at home or whatever, that kind of thing, or even if we're not, you just don't have the responsibilities, you don't have kids and things like that.
Sure.
Those are the years to really concentrate on giving it your best shot.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, if it didn't click for you yet, I say, man, you gotta go ahead and you gotta go work.
Yeah.
You gotta go work and make sure you can take care of yourself, because you need to start that rolling early enough that it, can, if things don't work out musically, that it can birth into something else that is sustaining throughout the rest of your life. So that's something to really consider.
Right.
That you let your career run for a certain amount of distance before you say, okay, I want to still do this. I'm writing some nice tunes now or whatever. I'm going to keep doing that. And you carve out enough of what you want to do, make that happen, and then, man, have a job too.
Yeah.
Work on the other end of being able to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You can't get around it. You really can't. And you don't want to wake up and discover that, man, that's a lot of years went by, and now I got to start over doing this other, twofold approach, because I still want to do music, but now I got to go in and get this job, or maybe I got to go to school and get educated or whatever,
Yeah.
I
mean, I like that your music story has different chapters. It's like you have your first act where you were the hottest band in Philadelphia. Second act where you had this like really cool resurgence. In some ways, probably that was better than the first act. What can we expect with you for your third act?
I'll tell you, I thought about this because I thought you were going to ask me this, and I could tell you something that we're kicking around. I wish I could tell you that this is the date that you're going to be able to experience it. That we all will be able to experience it. So I don't have that date right now, but we want to do a live recording of the band. But also in that live recording, it will feature some new music that nobody has ever heard before. So that is something that you could see as we come into 2026. So we're going to be aiming at that and trying to put it together, because we just feel as though it doesn't make any sense for us to have a live stuff with some of the tunes that people really like a whole lot, and be able to actually have that music recorded in a live sense, but then also give you something fresh and new on top of it. And we think that would be a good grab, and something that will really bless people that like the band and enjoy the band.
All right. And now we want to come see you. When's the next date? The the show in the park in Fairmount?
Yeah, that's the next one's coming. That is on, the 14th, I believe. I think that's the 14th. If the 14th is a Saturday, that's what it is.
Okay.
It's at in the Fairmount Park. There's going to be a lot of other bands there. I don't have the names of those bands, but it will be a lot of bands, a lot of good Philadelphia talent going on.
And you can find dates too, folks. If you want to check out Breakwater on that date or any other date, go over to breakwater.org. You'll find information about the band plus all the dates. Can you get merch here? You get like t-shirts and stuff yet?
I believe that you can actually do that now.
Yeah.
Because I've got some. There were some orders that came through, so there's a way to do that.
Yeah. The merchandise is good. I love the. If you guys still have the baby blue t-shirt and the black one, merch is cool too. Definitely check out the clothes.
Yeah, and you'll probably see the dates that are coming up as well on the site.
Yeah, the dates are certainly there. You'll see the you'll see the show.
There's some other things, some good venues out there. If you get a chance to see the band at City Winery or Royal Cafe Live, those are great venues to see the band. We like a bit of an intimate kind of a thing, and those venues, they give us those opportunities to just be close to the people that come out. So we do enjoy playing spots like that.
Okay.
All
right. Well, with us running out of time, what's one last message or anecdote you want to leave us with for the people, for everybody that hasn't really got a chance to hear you in like a long form interview?
I'll tell you what, you may have been listening to the recordings of the band, but it's a different experience to come out and see the band live. I will tell you that. You'll be stirred. We are definitely wanting you to leave a performance filled with joy in your heart in some kind of way. Lighter, if your week's been heavy, we want to make sure you leave lighter, and just even filled with some hope. There's something good is cracking and going on. And man, come out. Support live music. It's such an important thing to do that. So I would say, please do that. That's an ask, and that's a strong ask.
Nice.
From me. Just do that. It'd be greatly appreciated.
All right. Well, you
appreciate you having me come out, man.
No, man, I appreciate you. You guys heard it. Thank you so much. If you're still listening, this is James Jones, Philadelphia legend, dad, drummer, but more importantly, dad. Love you, man. Thank you so much.
I love you, sir.
All right.
My man.